Welcome back to Guru Talk. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today's special guest is, of course, my good friend Milos Sarcev, and we're going to be talking about training, and the training topic we're going to mention is giant sets, because this is Milos's bread and butter. We know you love to use giant sets, Milos, and I think a lot of people out there don't even know what giant sets are. First of all, explain what giant sets are and explain how you actually got introduced to them initially.
Okay, first, it's good to be back in the show. I really enjoy RXMuscle, and Dave, I listen to you all the time.
Thank you.
Speaking of that, we touched a subject back in FIBO one year. You also asked about these giant sets, but let's explain, because a lot of people on my board and on my Instagram, they put hey, can you explain a little bit why giant sets? Okay, so I got introduced to giant sets early in my career. There was I read some Steve Mihalik. He was a pro back in the day. He did the giant sets, and even Arnold, mentioned closer to the contest, he would do some giant sets. Why? So when you go from an aspect of muscle hypertrophy, and then you look all the aspects how the muscle grow with the mechanical tension, muscle damage, metabolic stress, myofibril, sarcoplasmic, hypertrophies, all this science. And then you see bodybuilders like Lee Haney, they would say never annihilate, only stimulate. Bill Pearl, they would say, why fail in anything? Why go to the muscle failure, right? And then go to Mike Menzer or Dorian Yates, that you must go to the failure and beyond failure, right? So what really triggers, repetitions between, let's say 1 and 3 is just strictly myofibril, strictly strength, 1 to 6 myofibril, maybe sarcoplasmic, hypertrophy strength. And then I go to the European tours and I see Serge Nubret, train with him, Thierry Pastel, Mohamed Benaziza. And I look, they never did anything like under 15 repetitions. And Benaziza was also doing quite a bit of giant sets. We were going around. And he is pound for pound, maybe most muscular guy. I don't know if you agree. He was really, packed with dense, muscle.
Right.
So, I've seen in many cases, I don't want to mention exactly names because they might be offended, but a lot of guys doing quite light repetitions, right? So nothing like, 6 to 8 to the failure and then with 4 reps and having a great results. So I start, implementing all that into my training routine. And I said in Road to Olympia 1999, I, pretty much applied giant sets, machines, isolations, more than compound moves, heavy weights, and all that stuff. And I grew exponentially. Olympia 99 was my biggest. And I went back then to Europe and I placed 5th behind guys like Ronnie, Flex, Kevin, and Dexter. I had of Nasser and Marcus, monsters, because I could kind of catch with the size. So it came to the point that Hidetaka Yamagishi came to me in 2006. And I was offered, great bonus if I put him at the Miss Olympia stage, in that 1 year.
Right.
And when I started thinking, okay, now with a limited amount of time, if I want to maximize everything, I had to answer to myself, what is maximal stimulation or maximum amount of muscle fibers for targeting muscle groups in each training session? So I do some heavy duty, by all means. I take 2 exercises and I push heavy duty, movement. But then I go into first I was doing supersets, 3 sets, and then giant sets, drop sets. And then I just went crazy. I said, okay, sky's the limit. Just push. Different angle, different grip, different tempo, different stance, different time under the tension. And I've seen tremendous results with just about everybody I applied. And this is how he actually trained, and he qualified for Miss Olympia 2007. And, he did back in the day, he was recording every single training session.
Wow.
And it was Japan, it was sold as a secret mission or something like that. And that was actual training. There was no bullshit.
Wow.
Then you see in 2007, Dennis Wolf, Sylvia Samuel, Johnny Jackson, they came to me, and I always put them through the same thing. Not because I want to be different. I really wanted to have that metabolic stress, right?
Right.
Push, volumizing, capillarization. Right? As you know, I do specific pre, intra, and post-workout supplementation. With my whole theory, when you increase blood flow, it's hyperemia advantage. Now, when we have so much blood into the muscle, and all these different muscle contractions, and all these muscle fibers being involved, we are inserting everything into the exact muscle that we're training. Right. So why stop at superset? Why not 3-set or a 4-set? So giant sets, by definition, is a minimum of 4 different exercises done back to back, without any rest, or maximal 10 seconds in between the stations. Right. So overload the muscle. If you don't give like the central nervous system time to rest, so it's muscle recovers very fast. Central nervous system takes a long time. So I don't give more than 10 seconds because muscle is going to recover. So I just push as much as I can.
Milos, are the giant sets done within the same muscle group, like all back exercises, all chest exercises?
Yeah, normally I would do this, but I don't know if you watch me. I do also a combine. I do the biceps, triceps quite often. I did chest and back. I did chest and shoulders. It's
that's more supersetting, though, right? Supersetting is when you would do different body parts, right?
No, yeah, okay. When you say giant sets, let's say I would pick exercise for chest, for back, chest, back, and do minimum of 4 different exercises. That would be considered. Yeah. And I do this.
Milos,
usually, I don't do this quite often. I usually.
You broke up for a second. So you said when you would put bicep, tricep, that would be considered a giant set, right?
Yeah, if it's at least 4 different exercises, doesn't matter if it's the same muscle group or different muscle groups. If you do nonstop, it's considered a giant set.
Gotcha. Who termed that a giant set? Is that a Joe Weider term?
Probably. Because Joe Weider had all these different principles, but I didn't. I read Stephen Mihalik. I think he was back from Czech Republic.
Oh, okay.
And this is
Joe probably took it from him. Yeah.
and of course, I never seen anything that he did because back in the day you can't get the magazines or nothing.
No, I didn't know who invented the term, but I knew the term. I just didn't know who invented it.
Yes, it's interesting. Recently I just found some footage of Arnold when he talked about he was doing all those kinds of things, fantastic giant sets. Yeah. So he did it himself, right? And I actually trained with somebody that used to, Antonio Trovato. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger training partner at one time back in Europe, and he was training with my best friend from Switzerland, Bobo, and they did some giant sets, and he put me through the kind of routine. It would be like cable cross, incline presses with the flies, and then bench with the resistance. You pick the exercise, right? Yeah. You think it makes sense. Because many times if I do the chest, if you do the push, or a fly, you would be completely exhausted. So I do push, fly, and change the angles. So you can start from incline, upper chest, go to the middle, lower.
Right. Which is the most effective? In other words, if you're structuring a giant set, do you want to do the compound movements first, or do you want to do the isolation ones first, or does it not matter?
Compound first, and you see this is also that. So you go heavy duty. Let's say first exercise, 6-8 reps, some heavy duty move. But then immediately I will give you some kind of isolation where you're going to go with a prolonged time at attention. So it's almost like isotension, but you do the reps. I don't know if you've seen some of my videos. I will make you squeeze for 10 seconds on the first rep, and then 9 seconds on the second, and 8, 7. Progressively, I would go down. I would just give you enough time to recoup a little bit so I can push you again on something heavy. Gotcha. And then, so constantly, just be realistic. Sometimes I structure the giant sets that I think is impossible to finish. And then guys finish, especially like Hida. Hida was a monster. You can never put anything in front of Hida that he won't finish. Yeah, so this is a concept. Now, a lot of people criticize. I think that Dorian once said, "Oh, that's like aerobic training,"
Yeah.
So among other things, I'm going to tell you this also, that if you do the giant sets, you're going to hardly ever need to do cardio, and I think many guys experience that.
Let me ask you this question, Milos. If you had to do the most effective giant set, for legs, say, because legs is a tough body part to continue working once you fatigue it. Like, let's say you're starting with squats. What would be your giant set for legs, say?
Okay, now I would start probably with the leg extensions to like isolate a little bit, right? So when you do with the leg extension and isolate just the quads, then I would get you to the heavy squats. From a heavy squats, I would move you to the hack squat and then apply that super slow, painful 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 seconds down and same thing 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 seconds up without locking the knees. So I did an isolation leg extension. I did a heavy squats when I don't really want you to focus so much on just blast the heavy weight. Then you go on a super painful, slow hack squats. And usually I would do the drop set on that. And I would finish you off probably with the leg presses. Now, leg presses, if I do super slow on hack squats, I would probably go explosive heavy on leg presses, just as an example. But then I go to the gym, and I've seen like 3, 4, 5 different exercises. I mean, the machines for legs, I would put them in. So it's really, that's what I've been doing. I'll tell you what, and this is honest to God truth. There was Dennis Wolf, Silvio Samuel, and Heat at that time, and we did it for Fit show for Bodybuilding.com, 2007. We did a arms giant set, but unfortunately they tape few reps on one exercise and then second and a third, so you couldn't tell that was consecutive. We did 33 different exercises, so 33 different exercises for arms back to back.
That's crazy, yeah. Well, let's, I want to ask you a question about about how many supersets you should do, because one superset is usually 4 exercises. How many rounds would you do of that 4 sets?
That's the giant sets. I will never actually repeat the same giant set. I would change it. I usually like to go 3 to 4 giant sets per body part per one workout. So 2 initially would be heavy duty exercises, 3, 4, 5 sets each. I wouldn't want to risk, let me tell you, I did train with Dorian back in the day, because at that time I didn't really believe that this was honestly the workout that he does. Like 1 set warm up, I didn't believe it. Then I trained with him in my gym, Colosseum gym, a few times, in Birmingham, his gym, Temple Gym, and then Gold's Gym Venice. And he was really always true to his science. And, by all means, it's very stimulating. It's very challenging. But for me, this was like such a low volume. When I finish, I said, I'm just warmed up. I now want to do it, right? So I would apply pretty much Dorian's heavy duty, but reduce a little bit, because I think this is just injury waiting to happen.
Yeah.
You cannot go 1 set warm up, right, and then go all out. I could squat like 650 pounds. So if I would do squats, what would be my warm up? 135, 225?
Yeah.
And then to 1 set all out? It's just, calling the trouble. The attendants are not going to, handle it. That's your son? Hello?
we got a visitor. My son's watching us. He wants to find out about giant sets from Milos Sarcev.
Yeah, please, you start doing it right now, Get your daddy in the gym and say, I want to do giant sets.
Flex. Flex, let me see. Show Milos your muscles.
There you are. There you are. You just have to show the glutes, because your dad was known with the fucking crazy glutes. There you go. Yeah, Dave, I never really give you a
We're starting him young. Now, Milos, let me ask you this question. Giant sets are great, but can you overtrain more easily when you do giant sets?
I was always saying for anybody that has overtraining, like, shut the fuck up. I'm really, look, I've seen the guys that train 6 hours a day. This is my, yeah, the kids are there. I shouldn't say that. Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
It's, you can edit it. No, it's really 6 hours a day, right? And they're progressing. So what determines overtraining? Now, if you apply my hyperemia advantage theory to saturate blood with the nutrients, you trigger insulin release or use exogenous insulin.
Right.
Insulin is in the blood. You are maintaining a glucose level by sipping it between sets. Right. So it's highly unlikely that you're going to deplete the glycogen storage because you're maintaining a glucose level. Okay. But as you know, whatever is in the blood, if insulin is there, is going to push to first available cells. And we have all these muscle contractions and all this. That's why I do the giant sets. Upper, middle, lower, inner, outer,
sure.
5 cells. So you're just pushing them into everything. I kind of visualize like taking a nail and nailing it with a hammer in all the fibers. If you do the giant sets with a elevated insulin and all this pre-digested anabolic, anticatabolic nutrients supplements that you take in between giant sets.
Yeah. Now, here's my issue. I agree. So you're maintaining that overtraining won't occur because you're keeping glycogen stores topped off. But what if, my definition of overtraining is overtaxing the nervous system. In other words, exhausting neurotransmitters. How do you prevent that? Is it important that you take enough rest days between your sessions? Is that going to prevent that? Because I think a lot of guys just go maybe too frequently. They don't take enough off days, so to speak.
Yeah. But you're talking to a guy that was in average training 550 times a year for 15 years straight. So I was doing 2 hours every single day pretty much. You miss it on a Saturday, Sunday. Okay, that was continuous, right? So back in the day, if you hear some of my interviews, I would say there's no such a thing as overtraining. It's just under eating and under sleep back in the day. But if you would train heavy duty like Dorian, of course you would overtask the nervous system, you would deplete the neurotransmitters, you would be wasted. But in my type of training, really, those 2 heavy-duty sets that I do, the 2 different exercises for heavy-duty style. First, when you start, would be first set would be slow eccentric, concentric, so it's more controlled. Then you do progressive overload, you pack a little bit more, slow eccentric, explosive. And now after 2 warm-up sets, maybe on the 3rd set, I would put something that can just blast, but minimum 10 reps. Okay. Now I'm ready for those 2 sets that Dorian would consider his heavy duty all out. One would be usually maybe with the 4 reps, and last would be negatives only. So you go eccentrically, and your training partner does concentrically. With this, I would really have only 4 sets heavy duty, strictly heavy duty, and I never found that any amount of workout volume 2 times a day would really overtrain.
How many days off a week are guys taking that you're working with?
Usually just one.
One?
Usually just one.
Wow, that's a lot of work. Do you think that for a genetic freak they can get away with it? Maybe other guys that maybe are not so genetically gifted?
One. There's something connecting.
We're back.
Okay.
We got you.
Okay. Yeah. So really, I don't know what was your volume, but I've seen guys that I really think that overtrain, and they come back to the gym every day better and better and better. Like, oh my God. There was especially one guy in San Diego. He literally lived in a gym. Let's say a Spanish guy, talk about Teresa. That's his name. He would train for 4 hours a day. John Brown, I trained with John. Oh my God. You do not get out and you cannot hold the bar anymore. If you hold the bar, you don't even have to do the rep. You just hold the bar until you no longer can. But I will tell you, even with Peter back in the day, he came to the point that I see it's like training, and then he comes and wants to train. No. You go home. And I had to actually push him out of the gym because work ethics is, let's do it, and you can see all the signs of just muscle waste and needing for rest. And if this happens, you need a couple of days rest, go ahead. But I never went with the periodization that I'm going to now have so many weeks of accumulation and still so many weeks of this and that. No, for me it was, balls to the wall, all out every time. I don't do anything crazy, super heavy like Dorian would do. I would do, control duty of those two exercises, and then it would be giant. That it could be on the heavier side, or it could be on the lighter side. It can be isolation or combination of things. And let me tell you this, it's also important, because I criticize sometimes that they look at my giant sets, oh, that's not proper form. My training partner, you're not isolating, like moving, shoulders and using secondary muscle groups. I think there's like so much overemphasis now on this, like you have to initiate, isolate it. People are they're not thinking of the movement of the muscle. I've seen this over and over, and people never make the muscle.
Right.
Look at Arnold, did a controlled cheat curls or cheat reps. So what if you use secondary muscle group? If your primary muscle group is going to get more stimulation by cheating a little bit, so sometimes I do, heavy duty first exercise. Second would be isolation, super slow time under tension. Third would be, explosive cheating a little bit. Okay, now I'll just push the weight.
Right.
And then I would do like isolation with strict movement or, let them cheat a little bit. So, for example, I did I don't know if you heard me because you were on the phone, with Dennis and Sylvia and Hide. I did 33 exercises for arms. It's hard to think of 33 exercises in a row. That was a giant set.
Right.
And you should
But you know what, Milos, let me stop you for a second. You're training some of the elite bodybuilders in the world. I have to believe that they can handle more stress in their body and that they can handle more intensity than the average person could in the gym, who might be a guy who's a hard gainer. You have to agree that there has to be a difference between the elite bodybuilder versus the regular guy who wants to just put muscle on.
Absolutely. So the correct answer would be beginners have to start slowly, maybe with supersets, then start with 3 sets, and then start with the giant sets. That's how I started training some of my clients. Only superset, and then add a third, and then fourth one. But I'll tell you, interesting thing, because I did throughout the last 10 years, training camps all over the world: Australia, Asia, Europe, America, and I want to test it. So those are the guys that are not experienced, and I put them through the crazy giant sets. Let me tell you, I didn't have a single time in a country, a single person that killed, and they did 10 different exercises back to back.
Right.
So I think it's, of course, maybe they didn't push 100%, right? Maybe they're trying to save themselves, and so but they lasted.
Yeah.
So many times they said, I surprised myself. Look, if I train you, for example, I'll be your strength, and you can try to fake it. You're not going to fake me.
Right.
I know that. So you too also. You can see in the gym, you can see the guys, they're pretending to train, making the guided faces. They didn't even start. They're making this, like, hold on a second, they didn't even do one rep. What the fuck are you going to do? So, or, when you see, I would like to, break the brink of a failure and then maybe spot you a little bit.
Right.
And I found this very, very effective. But I will tell you this, probably without my supplementation in workout, it would be easier to reach overtraining state.
Gotcha. All right. So obviously the drugs help with the recovery and help you do, push past that. How should giant setting be cycled? In other words, I'm sure you don't do it year round, right?
Well, pretty much 3 years round. Now I'm training with a training partner also, and I'm 55, and like you said, often wasted, maybe overtrained, but I don't want to admit. So yeah, I skip, but I will tell you, I will do it at least 4 weeks in a row with the giant constantly, but I would do it, I told you, 4 giant per body part.
Gotcha.
Then I would put it down to 2 giant sets per body part and do a little bit more heavy duty. And I would do 2 weeks of no giant sets at all.
Yeah. Milos, I want to also congratulate you on Hamid Juma, because I know you worked with him. He just placed second at the Muscle Contest Ireland Pro 212 show behind Samuel Haddad. I personally thought that, Hamid probably could have won that show. He looked a little more complete to me. How long have you been working with him?
Yeah, I played for the same show amateur last year, and he won. And for me, I'm glad that you mentioned him. I mean, he exemplifies everything that bodybuilding should be. Big proportions, small weight, flaring thighs, that's V-taper. Like you said earlier when we talked about cameras, maybe one day we can talk about the judging, just to, give some ideas. For me, he was, more complete, in better, thighs, more of the X-frame and V-taper. So, Haddad, of course, is a great champion. And, by judging score sheets, he won unanimously. But as you know, it's seniority, and, people do this. Usually, when you see names who are entering the contest, they ought to be, somewhat. And I'm not saying wrong about this, because, let's say, we're in this business for 30 years. Usually, we, can see list and get to the top 5 with a 99% margin of error. So yeah, thank you for saying. I think that Hamid is definitely Miss Olympia competitor in the near future. Unfortunately, he didn't qualify, and we're going to look what we're going to do next. But thank you for mentioning.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, you did a great job with him. All right, well, Milos, we're gonna call it quits here. I want to thank you for filling us in on giant sets and the science of it and how to set it up and everything like that, because I think a lot of people are confused about it. Now I think people are gonna have a really good understanding. Personally, I think people always ask me, hey Dave, do you like this? Do you like that? I say yes to everything regarding training, because I think it's good to mix it up. I think when you shock your body with different training techniques, you get new growth, as long as you're giving 100% intensity to what you're doing. And I think that the giant sets definitely have a place. I've used them throughout my career. I didn't do them for long periods of time, but I would do them for 8 weeks and use it as a way to shock my body. And I definitely saw growth in it. So I think that, when you think about training, always think about trying to do something, especially when you hit stagnation in your training regimen. Try to find a new technique. There's no such thing as a bad training regimen, only one that you're not fully executing. And next time we get you back on, Milos, we're going to talk about judging criteria, what you think judges should be looking for in the men's open and classic bodybuilding. I think it's an interesting topic. We might even make it an iron debate. And I want to thank you for taking time and missing your soccer game to come on and talk to us.
Yeah, I actually I don't even know the score. I didn't look out. But that's okay. That's me. I'll take RXMuscle interview anytime over the soccer game, unless it's Barcelona. Barcelona, I can't miss it.
All right, Milos, be good. Take it easy. Thank you. Yeah. And guys, that's going to take us to the end of another episode of Guru Talk. I'm Dave Palumbo for Milos Sarcev. We'll see you next time.
All right.